Hey everyone, how's it going? So today we're going to be looking at the atheist claim that the Bible got pi wrong, and I'm going to use Toon as an example. But you might say, but hold on a minute, Michael, Toon's a Christian. Well, no, he's not. If he says he's a Christian, he's a liar, and I'm going to show you how. It literally does it with his own voice while he's doing this presentation at Duffy's church. And what's wrong with you, Duffy, letting an atheist and a non-believer come into your church and preach to your congregation and tell all your congregation that Bible's wrong? What's going off in your head, Duffy? But back to McToon. McToon claims to be a Christian. People I've seen running around defending him, saying he is a Christian. No, he's not. He's an atheist. Right? He's terrified that Bible speaks about flat earth. That's why he's doing what he's doing. He's terrified God's real, because if God is real, he's accountable for the things he does. And the things McToon does, look at Wiki Flav, everybody's a piss drinker, That in itself should tell you that McToon's not a Christian, but with his own words, he's going to tell you anyway. Let's listen.
They said the Bible, your holy book, said this was...
See, your holy book, talking to a congregation, not our holy book, not mine and your holy book. You see, if McToon were a Christian, the Bible would be his holy book, because that's where the Christian faith comes from. No Bible, no Christian faith. Because it's the Bible that writes about Jesus' time on earth, his ministry, what he did for us, the Christian faith. So when McToon says your holy book and not accept it himself, he's not Christian. Said it with his own words. But anyway, this isn't about whether McToon's Christian or not. We're literally just going to deal with this claim that the Bible got pi wrong. So let's move on.
Is that a bird? Well, it's certainly not science.
So now McToon's comparing Bible to science. You know what? Ball earthers are constantly reminding flat earthers that the Bible's not a science book. Yet we've got McToon comparing it to a science book. These people are all over the place. They speak out of both sides of the mouth. They're hypocrites. It's hilarious.
Is it good for teaching geometry?
Is it good for teaching geometry? Show me a geometry lesson in Bible, McToon. One, just one. Just like it's not a science book, Bible's not a mathematics book. It's not a mathematical textbook. Wow.
First Kings says that it describes the giant ball in the temple.
Yeah, that giant ball is called Brazen Sea.
And it says that the diameter is 10 cubits. And the circumference all the way around is 30. That gives a value of pi of 3.0.
So it's got a diameter of 10 cubits and a circumference of 30 cubits. That gives a value of pi 3.0. Let's have a look at that before we move on. So let's grant McToon his little misrepresentation of Bible. Let's accept that it's a geometry book. Let's accept that it's teaching geometry. Let's accept that it's teaching mathematics. Let's accept that they knew what pi was and they got it wrong. A brief history of pi. The ancient Babylonians calculated the area of a circle by taking 3 times the square of its radius, which gave a value of pi 3. So the understanding of pi at the time that the Bible wrote about the Brazen Sea was that pi equaled 3. Just like the Bible says, a radius of 10 and a circumference of 30. Pi equals 3. See, McToon's being dishonest. He wants to bring something that was wrote 2,000 years ago with a 2,000-year understanding of mathematics and geometry and bring it into the future and say, look, they got it wrong. No, they didn't. We only come to the understanding of what pi is, what we know now, through everything that's been learnt in past, and we've built upon it until we have a better understanding. So McToon's being dishonest. The Bible wasn't wrong about pi. It was just in line with an understanding of the people at that time, when the Bible was wrote by the people at that time. So McToon's wrong. McToon doesn't know all the facts. He's not shared all the facts. You know, really, really dishonest, but I expect no less from McToon. Look at pride in his face while he's telling people the Bible's wrong. Quite sad. But we're going to move on anyway. We're going to go to the scriptures, and I'm going to show you some other things, and I'm going to show you that pi is actually in there, whether the Bible were trying to prove pi or not. Who cares? But what we've got here is just another classic example of how the atheist twists, misrepresents, doesn't understand, don't give you all facts in order to belittle Bible, and that is for his own benefit. McToon don't want Bible to be real because he can't accept God. It is not really focused on us. It don't, what's coming out of McToon's mouth about this? I fear not. You know, God gives us the understanding and the power to defend our faith. You know, like I'm doing now. It's so easy to do. You know, because McToon's the dishonest one. The Bible is the truth. God is the truth. Jesus is the truth. You know, so all these people are doing a fighting truth, and they will always come unstuck. So anyway, now we're going to move on. We're going to look at scripture, and I'm going to show you some interesting things. Let's just quickly finish up with listening to McToon just to make sure we've heard everything he's got to say.
31 would be accurate to just 2 digits, and that'd be fine, but it doesn't. Now, some people add and go and interpret it more, and that's fine. They say, well, the outside versus the inside of the bowl, but you're adding interpretation there. And that's not good science teaching. That's not good geometry.
But you're adding your own interpretation to it, McToon, because you are saying that Bible's teaching science and it's teaching geometry, when it's clearly not. The purpose of the measurements given about the brazen sea are just to give an understanding of its dimensions. You know, it's not trying to show how accurate it is to pi. It's not showing that it's teaching mathematics accurate according to your standards, McToon. It never claims to be teaching science. You are forcing these concepts onto the Bible. So it's you who are committing these offences, McToon. Here we are in 1 Kings 7:23, and he made a molten sea 10 cubits from one brim to the other. It was round all about, and his height was 5 cubits, a line of 30 cubits did come sit round about. So we've got his diameter and the circumference. There's also another measurement here in verse 26, and it was a handbreadth thick, and the brim thereof was wrought like the brim of a cup with flowers of lilies. It contained 2,000 baths. So the brim itself, the like the walls of this container is an handbreadth thick. So if we have a look at brazen sea, now just because we have an idea on how we measure things in modern times, you have to understand that what's wrote about in Kings is not modern times. So we don't know how they went about measuring things. All we have is what it says in the Bible. So what I think is going off is it were measured from brim to brim like that, 10 cubits. That's a cubit is 18 inches, so that's 180 inches. And then I think it was this inside rim that were measured for 30 cubits. 30 cubits, 540 inches. If you take that diameter and times it by pi, so 180 inch. In fact, I've got it all drawn out here on a different table. It'll be easier to explain, I think. So, like I said, I think that when the guy, whoever measured it, he measured it from the outer rim for the diameter, but then he measured it on the inner rim for the circumference. What we need to understand is how we do things isn't necessarily how they did things 2,000 years ago, you know. To try and do that's dishonest in itself. So how do I know that it's the inside rim that were measured? Well, this is what's funny. I can use pi. So if I take the diameter of 10 cubits, which is 180 inches, and times that by 3.14, I get 565.2 inches. So that's clearly not 30 cubits. So that measurement would be the outer perimeter, but the 30 cubits is the inside perimeter. I can use pi again to check that, because if I minus the arm breadth, the 4 inches, from the diameter, that would be 180 inches minus 8 inches times by 3.14, 540.8, which is 30 cubits. So whether the Bible intended to be accurate to pi or not to be accurate to pi, pi is actually in there. But what we have to understand is, all in all, it's just giving you some measurements so you know the size of this thing. Not trying to be accurate to modern day science. It's not a science book. It's not trying to be accurate to modern day geometry and mathematics. It's not a geometry or a mathematics book. You know, it's just giving you some dimensions so you can have a rough idea how big it is. You know, stop trying to force a modern worldview onto a 2,000-year-old worldview. Stop trying to say how we do things in modern times is how they did it 2,000 years ago. It's just stupid. It's lunacy. This is what an atheist must do when he has no real substance to attack, you know. Toon took so much pride in telling Duffy's congregation that the Bible were wrong. Look at his little grinning face. He takes pride in it, you know. He's done a crap job, but he takes pride in it. And that's what an atheist does. See, an atheist, to me, if you don't believe in it, why are you talking about it? Why are you coming telling other people that they're wrong? You know, that tells me that the issue lies with you, that you fear it being true. You fear God be real, not other way around, you know. So it's quite sad that people have to go to these lengths. It's quite sad you get arguments like this, which aren't really an argument, you know, quite easily dealt with. Because a believer is, you know, we're led by Holy Spirit. We're given, the carnal man, the fleshly man, can't understand the things of the Spirit. So, although they want to say pi's not, you know, Bible got pi wrong, it's not in Bible, but I've just shown you how pi is totally accurate, even in the measurements given. You know, you just have to do a little bit more reading and a little bit more thinking rather than just parroting what you've heard someone else say. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry, McToon, but that were a massive fail. Anyone else parroting the same argument, you have failed. And if you are out there and someone brings this argument to you and you don't know how to rebut it, I hope this video helps. Love you all. God bless. Just a quick amendment. I kept saying 2,000 years ago. It's more than that, but I think you know what I mean. But you know what deniers are like? They'll jump straight on that. They always focus on the things that you get wrong rather than the things that you're right about. So yeah, obviously Kings and Second Kings were wrote a lot longer than 2,000 years ago, but you know what I mean. Anyway, God bless.